it was really exciting. It's an opportunity for us to network with the right kind of people.
For us, being able to connect with people from broad aspects.
Good evening and welcome to this special program of the IDC, which has set aside 4.5 billion rands to support youth-owned companies. They spent 2 days here at Midrand Gallagher Estates discussing ways and means of supporting young South Africans. They've also launched a portal here. So we will be talking to some of the executives of the company as well as the beneficiaries of this scheme. We hope you enjoy it. Please watch and listen very carefully because there's a lot of advice and support coming your way. Over 2 days, the Industrial Development Corporation engaged in discussions, analysis, and cultivation of new ideas to realize greater participation by young people in the formal economy as part of their agenda at the IDC's 2016 National Youth Enterprise Conference. The conference forms part of the IDC's ongoing interventions to promote greater participation by young people in the formal economy by finding solutions to the underlying problems hampering youth entrepreneurship, which is a critical part of IDC's mandate. As one of the government's primary vehicles to support economic growth, the IDC has taken on this challenge to ensure that young people are part of the country's economic transformation agenda. With nearly 54% of youths aged between 15 and 36 years being unemployed, the IDC is all too aware of the task at hand. Despite having already approved nearly 1 billion rands in funding to youth-empowered and owned businesses in the last financial year, much more still needs to be done. This is why the IDC has committed 4.5 billion rand in support of youth-owned and empowered businesses over the next 5 years.
A very, very special and warm welcome to the young entrepreneurs present here today. Thank you so much for joining us as we embark on an exciting new chapter in our efforts to address the unrelenting challenge of supporting youth into the formal economy.
We've engaged with the IDC. We don't focus on only one industry. So for us, being able to connect with people from broad aspects was just amazing.
This has really provided a fantastic platform for us to exhibit our services. It's a free-to-use platform for entrepreneurs. And thanks to the IDC, we have been able to show that and showcase that to all these entrepreneurs here.
I've already invested so much of money in terms of putting down our own data center, our own NOC, and our own service setup. For example, somebody needs some sort of exchange, somebody needs some sort of AD, somebody needs some sort of cloud services, which we can help those young entrepreneurs with a very cost-effective model where they can easily afford those solutions.
Minister Ebrahim Patel is responsible for economic development and planning. Thanks very much for joining us for this chat at the launch of the Grow Youth scheme. A lot of money that's been spoken about here, and we'll talk about the details of that in a moment. But I just want you to bring us up to speed with the performance of the economy. We've been complaining about the same things all the time: high unemployment rate, inequality, and poverty. And the numbers seem to be stuck around 25, 26% in the case of unemployment. Why are we not able to break the back of the high unemployment rates in South Africa?
Let me start with a contextual comment. This year is the 40th anniversary of a quite momentous occasion when in 1976 young people protested at gutter education, at education that was really preparing them for a future of subordination, of inferiority. And 1994, when we started our democratic journey, was about breaking with that reality. And over the period of the democracy, we've had quite a significant jobs growth, but we've also had very large numbers of people entering the economy, looking for work. So if I look at the last few years, 3 years ago, in 2013, we signed the Youth Employment Accord in Soweto at the Hector Peterson Memorial, which committed government working with young people and business and the trade unions to create more jobs. Now, over that period, Tim, the economy has created 144,000 additional jobs for young people. Normally, we can celebrate that. But in our context, we're a young population. Think about it, more than half of the population are young people. In these circumstances, the number of people looking for work is growing faster than the new jobs that we've created. So in that same period I've looked at, more than 300,000 young people left school or left university or college and came into the labor market. That's our challenge. So it's not that we're not creating jobs, but we need to be creating jobs much faster on a much bigger scale. And so if you're looking for a macroeconomic challenge that we have, it's to get the growth rate up, but growth with jobs, not just to have a GDP that's growing at 4 or 5%, and at the moment it's performing much lower than that, but also a GDP that is bringing young people into employment.
But now, Minister, the sectors that are performing, I want you to do a sort of comparative, a comparison of the different sectors, right? And the nature of our economy is also changing. Where it used to be based on agriculture and mining, those are shedding jobs by larger numbers, and we're becoming increasingly a technology-based, knowledge-type economy, and professional services increasing. Yet, the same population of young people has not acquired the appropriate skills to meet with the growth of jobs in the knowledge, professional type job environment, where the agriculture and mining are shedding jobs as we speak. So how do you bring about that balance then?
When I look at South Africa's peers, other countries with the same social structure, roughly the same level of development, the number of jobs in agriculture in those economies is significantly higher than South Africa. We had, over the last 4 or 5 years, quite a robust growth in jobs in agriculture. Given the current drought, that is moderated. In fact, we've had some job losses. But if I look beyond the immediate period, I still see opportunity in agriculture to grow employment. In mining, it's a more complex story, because there really what has happened is the economy benefited from what we call a commodity super cycle. It means a kind of a once-in-a-lifetime moment when the rest of the world need our minerals. And in our case, it happened because China was industrializing so fast and investing in its infrastructure. That has come to an end. It's moderated much more, so we can't see significant new numbers of jobs in mining. And that, therefore, underlies the importance of the new economies. Filmmaking is one key growth area. So the Industrial Development Corporation is now supporting the growth of the sector. It's a new sector in the economy. We've supported the big film studio in Cape Town. Information and communication technologies are driving changes in our economy. And young people are techno-savvy. They know what's happening. They spot the opportunity. Look at the United States. Look at any advanced economy, and you see new growth. It comes disproportionately from the new sectors. We've got to bring young people into these new sectors. Many of them are very services-based, but there are also new manufacturing sectors that are emerging from the information and communication revolution that we're seeing here. They talk of the fourth industrial revolution, the way in which the world is being reshaped, where young people today who are at school are going to come into a labor market 10 years from now that is fundamentally different. So our education institutions have to adapt to this new reality and develop new kinds of skills. Just the ability to screw on widgets in a factory is not going to be the job creator of the future. Robots will do that. We've got to concentrate more on skills in creativity, innovation, perhaps even empathy, because these are skills that, frankly, machines and robots can't do as well yet as human beings can do. And so that's where the new jobs will come from. So if I look at the economy now, I see opportunity in traditional sectors. We've got to manufacture more. We've got to grow more agricultural goods. For example, when we did an agreement with AB InBev, when they bought SAB Miller, we said to them, show us your job creation plan. When you take over a company, we want to see that society benefits, not just shareholders, but society as a whole. So the IDC initiative to get the youth portal going is really to create a window where young people can come, they can click, and they can see the entire offering, both of government, but even many opportunities in the private sector.
But here's another problem in the South African context, that of the structure of the economy, that it's still controlled by few companies that control entire value chains in some instance. And this has been mentioned as one of the problems in South Africa, with new emerging entrepreneurs not being able to enter those value chains and participate meaningfully. Therefore, it's like a closed out economy, notwithstanding the opportunities that might arise as a result of this fourth industrial revolution that you spoke about.
I think, Tim, you're right. I think that's the fundamental challenge that we're dealing with now. And we're scoring some early successes, but we need to do a lot more. We tackle it from two angles. The one is what I call the supply side, and the other one is the demand side. Now, by the supply side, it means when a new entrant, a young entrepreneur wants to come into the market, he or she meets established business. They know how to do things. They've been able to get their established relationships. No one wants to open a door for them. They can't get capital from the banks because they're high risk. They don't have a track record. And that's where government steps in. Over the last 3 years, since we signed that accord in Soweto, I want to say that the IDC and CIFA together have approved more than 2 billion rand in fresh funding for enterprises that are youth-inspired, where at least 25% of the enterprise is owned by young people, where the management are generally young people running those businesses. And at the exhibition that is together with this conference, you'll see examples of young South Africans going out there and saying, you know what, we want to make a difference in this country.
I want you to integrate 3 ideas for me in this interview. That's the question of, it has been highlighted as the poor culture of entrepreneurship in South Africa, and the bureaucracy, the red tape, which you were able to establish at this conference by show of hands. People said that, notwithstanding the funding institutions that we have, that the turnaround times take too long and that people find it difficult to access, as well as the policies of government, how all of these things come together. And will we get to a point where you as minister can turn around and say, now we're beginning to achieve the success of creating opportunities and creating employment?
I want to get to that position as quickly as possible. We are creating opportunities. We are creating jobs. I want to see even more opportunities and significantly numbers of additional jobs. So over this period that we've been talking to the IDC, they've been improving their systems. And I've said to the IDC, go into townships, meet young entrepreneurs, meet township enterprises, and hear from South Africans what are the problems with accessing funding. And that's the focus we're going to be giving. So let me connect these different parts. There is still bureaucracy in our system. Our officials don't always realize that we employ them to make it possible for South Africans to access resources, to do it smartly, to do it for smart business plans, because we can't throw money away. This is public money and we must look after it carefully. But you're not successful if you can give people 20 reasons why they're failing. You're successful when you help them to overcome those 20 reasons and make their businesses a success. So part of what the retooling inside government is not to say, we've got all of this and you must meet our requirements, but how do we partner? How do we hold your hand a little bit? And then the final one is entrepreneurship. It is true that we can have and can do even more to foster the culture of entrepreneurship. But when I look around in townships, I see a lot of examples of entrepreneurship, but it's entrepreneurship that is not well directed. You see young people coming with ideas, with passion, and when they hit a bank or they hit a government department, it seems as if that passion is switched off because we haven't made our systems user-friendly. So I want to see schools focusing more in life orientation on entrepreneurship. Every person really should, it's a good life skill. Because what is entrepreneurship? Entrepreneurship says, there's a problem, I bring my energy, I solve that problem, I can make some money in the process if I'm a private entrepreneur. If I'm a public entrepreneur, I don't even make money, I just solve a problem and leave people happier. So we can do more at school to foster the culture of entrepreneurship, but in every society there are people with entrepreneurial energy. We must help them to marketize that, to turn it into money, to turn it into opportunity, to turn it into jobs, to turn it into development. And that for me is the big story. Because if we teach entrepreneurship at school, but our institutions discourage people from taking some risk. And remember, what a good entrepreneur is, it's a hard worker. It's someone whose passion is the business. They don't sleep without making sure things are going well. Weekends, there's no such thing as a 9-to-5 entrepreneur. The concept don't exist. It takes over your life. And you basically do it better than anyone else can. You do it to the best of your ability. And people around you see that and they reward you because they buy your service or they buy the things that you make. So I think that when I look at South Africa, I see lots of potential. I see lots of good examples of entrepreneurship. I just think it's on too small a scale. We need to massify it. We need to make it bigger.
Minister Ebrahim Patel, much appreciated.
Great to see you.
Thank you very much. Well, there you are. We have to get South Africa growing once again, and this is what the IDC is trying to do with this conference aimed at the youth. They've set aside 4.5 billion rands for the next 5 years to support youth initiatives in business.
We have an initiative called the Waste Bank. The Waste Bank allows us to transact with the vendors that are on the road, meaning that a vendor would call in and would log a call, and a transporter would then be dispatched to pick up the waste that the vendor has then collected.
We are involved in surfacing of roads. We manufacture asphalt, and also we do placement of the material in terms of laying of the surfacing.
In the very simplest of terms, the Billy Energy Group is building essentially a privately held ESCOM. Our business is to generate electricity.
So traditionally, we've had one provider of electricity. There was a program called the Renewable Energy Independent Power Producer Program that was initiated by the IPP office. With this project, it basically allowed for different power producers to build and operate power plants that will connect to the national grid.